So I've talked before on the kinds of books that I think are the best out there, uh, overrated books, and even those that are underrated, all different types of things. Today, specifically, Zach is bringing his list and he's scrunching his face. We're going to see what he thinks. Why are you scrunching?
You'll see.
Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jim. Wow. What the heck happened?
Wrong tube, and now I've got a mess I need to clean. Oh,
Oh,
so I think that's funny and should stay in there.
I have to find a way to put it in there. It was the most brilliant looking spit take I've ever seen. It was like
I had a mouthful of coffee and it started going down the wrong tube and it just like spewed out
it was
all over
when you
both my
see it, it's
monitors
amazing.
and my computer. And it's just, this is, even though I've cleaned it now, like it's not perfect. And there's going to be some slightly sticky spots of coffee that I'll need to clean later.
So sorry about those technical difficulties, people. Zach decided to swallow the coffee down the wrong tube. This is how it goes. We're glad we were recording and not actually live, but I had to keep that in there for that was great. It wasn't anything I said, since I was just introducing ourselves. So you never know what you get on Fantasy for the Ages.
Apparently.
What you are going to get today, though, is something maybe you don't want to be drinking coffee or another beverage when Zach gives these takes, because the same reaction might come from you. Zach, I want to hear, what are the things that you think are you going to give us the five most overrated and the five most underrated of your SFF books? Okay, let's hear it.
So I need to specify real fast because I was cringing so much when you started this because you seem to imply that underrated is bad. And I'm like, that's backwards. No, these can be good or bad. They could all be good books. Overrated are things I think have way more hype than they actually probably deserve. While these underrated books are just things that I think deserve more attention than they actually get. Things that I think are great and you should consider going and reading because it's worth it. So where do you want to start, Dad? Overrated?
Yeah, let's do the overrated. Let's go to the part that, again, you're not saying these are bad books. We don't tend to
No.
read bad books, but you're thinking these are overrated by some people. They're good, but not that good.
And you and I talked a little bit about books that we think are overrated before, so I tried to change up my list a little and see some things that I think are still a bit overrated. We're going to go through these a little quickly because people talk about
It's a
these
tiny talk
enough.
episode. Yeah, let's go.
Let's start with Harry Potter. We've got enough. The world's big, but the world's partially as big as it is because of all the stuff fans keep adding to the world after the books are done. It's enjoyable. It's good. It's got a whole big world in movies. We can leave it be.
Okay, you're done with Harry Potter, man. All right.
Yeah. The next thing is less a singular book and more a genre slash
Ooh.
type of book. I think we got too many zombie books.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I think the fact that you keep finding a bunch of new zombie books with really big series, there's too many. It's an overcrowded market. These things are overrated. Why does everyone still love it? We go watch The Walking Dead, and some of it's not even that good.
Well, that's true.
We're getting to a point where people just love their zombies so much that we don't get good zombie content. So, like, why? Leave them be for a bit. Bring them back in 20 years.
Wow, just the tiniest counter arguments. All the genres are like that.
Oh,
We get tons
sure.
of things in them, and some of them are good, and some aren't. We don't stop writing grimdark.
I'm
We
not
don't
saying
stop
you're
epic fantasy.
wrong.
Why would we stop zombies?
I'm just saying zombies are really the only part where I have to hear about 2 to 3 books every couple weeks from you about more zombie books.
Hey, it's not that much. All right, go on. What's your next one?
My next one is going to get me canceled. Uh, partially because I haven't read it yet, but I can't imagine it will live up to the hype. I'm scared to read it because it has so much hype. And that's The Kingkiller Chronicle by Patrick Rothfuss. There's
It does have a lot of hype.
no way that this book is going to be as good as people say it is. I expect to enjoy this book. I also expect to walk away from it and go, Yeah, that was overrated. People sold that a little too high. They told me this was like the best fantasy ever. I can't say that.
Yeah, I'm not sure anyone says that.
Some people
Really?
say that.
Huh.
In fact, enough people that I've heard it from more than one in real life, which is wild because I don't talk to people.
Well,
uh,
we'll see what you feel when you actually read it.
Next one, I think it's an easy walk out of the park to say this is overrated. A Song of Ice and Fire. It's very good, but it gained so much popularity through a Game of Thrones. The show itself took off like crazy. It is easily one of the most popular series in the entire sci-fi fantasy realm. And it's good. It's not complete. It doesn't have a landing to stick. So why is it getting more attention than things that really stick the landing well? It's just a little overrated. I enjoy it. It's not worth it. And
Oh,
finally,
wow.
the last easy one that I have to mention anytime I talk about overrated books, it's Dune. I don't get it. This one is one where I'm like, I'm sure you enjoy it, but I can't get into it. But enough with all
Yeah,
the things that I
I don't know,
think
man.
are overrated that aren't worth the hype. Let's talk about some things that deserve more attention.
Yeah, let's hear your thoughts on this one.
The first one here, you might disagree about it being underrated. You think people talk about this and know this enough. I mention it because I think the author is talked about a lot for a different series, and that's the Night Angel trilogy by Brent Weeks. I think that's fantastic, but whenever you hear the name Brent Weeks, it's usually attached to his Lightbringer series, or more recently, people bashing him for Night Angel Nemesis coming back. But the original trilogy is really, really good.
Agreed.
So I think it deserves a little more attention.
Yeah, Night Angel Nemesis isn't going to help it get that attention, unfortunately.
The next of my underrated books has some of the best books I've read in the past year or so. I've only really heard about this from one or two people. It's The Acts of Cain.
Hmm.
Very good, but a little bit of an obscure read for me, in my opinion. Like, just finding it and choosing it is something that I maybe wouldn't have done originally. And I think more people should try it. It is a little bit more highbrow.
I'm going to try it this year, partly because of your encouragement. So good job.
We're going to dip back to my childhood a little bit here, which is to say we're going to something that isn't adult fantasy anymore. We're going back into young adult or maybe even just a little younger. Because again, we have an author who's well known for a series, but they have something else that's so much better.
Ooh.
Suzanne Collins writes The Hunger Games, takes off into a movie deal. It's fantastic. They're so successful. That's one of their worst series compared to the other that I read that is so much better.
Give it to us. Come
The
on.
first book is Gregor the Overlander in the Underland Chronicles. It is a 5-book series with giant creatures and hidden worlds and prophecies and abilities and a whole slew of destiny and plots and really quite an interesting interweaving of fate for something that's probably written for like an 11 or 12-year-old.
It's a very different style of book from The Hunger Games.
Absolutely. And yet so much better.
Okay.
That's my soapbox for today, I guess. My next tier might be in the realm of rated appropriately, but I think it deserves a little bit more recognition, so I'm going to say it's underrated. The Rhaenyra Chronicles. These things
Ah,
are really good.
and
They're
not many people talk
delightful.
about them.
They're not amazing, like I'm going to forever have this in my top fantasy, but they do have some of the most compelling character relationships between main characters that are really fun to enjoy and escape into. And yeah,
Hmm.
a lot of people don't really talk about these. They
Yeah,
should.
Royce and Hadrian need some love.
And finally is one that jump out of a different genre for me. 13 Stories by Jonathan Sims. This is more your supernatural thriller horror vibe. And I don't read a lot of that. I really enjoy this. I really enjoy his writing. He has, as part of a different company, a podcast that I really enjoy the stories that they make there, and they recently have released a like sequel podcast that I've really enjoyed. So when I went and found this book, I was excited. I enjoyed it. I went to the audiobook version, and it's beautifully produced with a whole cast of characters. I want people to read this book so I can talk about it with people. It's really interesting.
Okay. Well, there we go. 5 overrated, 5 underrated. Likely you heard something Zach talked about that you haven't read yet, and maybe you'll check it out. Maybe you'll now avoid it. It depends which list it was on and how you felt. Tell us what you think by clicking like on this episode if you enjoyed it, subscribing if you haven't done so yet, and leaving comments down in the comment box, and we'll be sure to respond. If Zach doesn't notice, but it was straight to him, I'll make him respond. I'll get him in there.
He'll bring me out of the basement so I can respond.
There you go. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll talk to you next time.